just to ask, right? We're a smaller group here, and we did it purposely this way to have 2 meetings so people could kind of hit this whenever it worked in their schedule, but we wanted to give you a full update. So I'm going to run through some slides, but just ask folks if there's any questions, anything that comes up, please just do so. Jasper, our sound is good, bud, right? You can hear me well? Okay, excellent.
Everything sounds great.
All right, good. So let's go to the next one. This is a ELAC update. You all know this is what we are going to share with you. And the reason we're doing it this way is we are giving you a preview of what we're going to present to the Planning Commission. I will come to that later, why the kind of the process and what's evolved here with the city, but you're actually seeing the presentation like we like to do before we go to the Planning Commission. So that's why this is, of course, you know, our project team, but these are the folks that are really involved in this is making a really sharp transition from us, right, the outreach team, to Norris Design, the planners, and really to HB&A, the landscape, or excuse me, the architects now on this site. So much of this and the engineers have really taken over from a site planning standpoint. Next slide. So folks, you know this, we know the the outreach story. So Jasper, we can go through this. Obviously, you all are the core of that ELAC is and kind of the way we've approached it. But this is just that kind of summary information that we always give to the Planning Commission and to City Council. Next slide. So folks, we know it, you did it. This is our work together here where we always kind of start on the 400 homes. I just want to show the evolution of this, how much these plans grow, right? As we, and by grow, I mean get so much better and improved, where we start from kind of those bubble diagrams. And then Jasper, let's go through it. The 400, you know, the units, kind of our makeup on what we're looking at. Of course, all affordable. So Jasper, let's look at the next slide here and see where we go. And Jasper, if you have thoughts, so again, kind of looking at this where we talk about that process, right? We went through the rezoning, of course, the sketch plan you were all involved in, and the rezoning in 2022. We did the PUD. That's what we last got approved at City Council in October of last year. And now this is actually the site plan and the phase 1 final plat. So we are actually talking about built environment, buildings, site plan for phase 1. And we'll show you what is in phase 1 because it's actually pretty expansive, right? So what we have been, you can go ahead, Jasper. What we have been going through with the city is trying to find a pathway to get phase 1 done, this site plan, get through Planning Commission and City Council with their blessing, obviously, and then allow us to do a financial close, to close on phase 1, these buildings that are here in sight. So this really is been driven almost exclusively. There's so much engineering going on this site, so much on Emma, 120th, all this perimeter engineering, if you will, has been a lot of the technical discussion. So the reason we canceled or postponed that last ELAC meeting with kind of shorter notice was that the city wanted us to go through a little bit more on some engineering issues before we determined if it was the right way. We have reached full technical agreement with them. So this is what we're going to focus on a lot and really show that walkable, pedestrian oriented, multimodal. What you see in color, just to kind of show, and what's obviously fogged out there, what is shown and drawn is phase 1. This is phase 1. So Cappy, for you, right, on Emma Street and thinking about those improvements that come down, and then really all Canterbury making that loop. But you see just such remarkable kind of vision that you all helped us create, but you start to see it come alive at the street level. Next slide, Jasper. This shows those outlots in phase 1. So you all know it, but this is kind of fun to look at. So building C there is the community center, right? And that is in phase 1. We worked really hard with the city to move that up so that amenity actually gets built in a phase 1. I'll tell you the truth, in market rate deals, just regular market rate deals you see all over the area and across the country, the public, that community center, is always last. And I hate to say that, but it's true. But Boulder County has found a way to do it first or as part of phase 1, which is exactly what it should be. It's remarkable, that community asset. So then D, the 18 multifamily units, building E and F. The E is really important. We get the 63 senior multifamily units, and then F again is the multifamily for rent affordable. But to get senior in that first phase, we think is so important as well. And then I don't want to go through these quickly, but I just want you to look at this list of the parks, the outlot. So that buffer that was so important along 120th into the Flag Drive neighbors, Canterbury, all the roundabouts, right? The Emma Street signal, everything that really touches the public, we thought was so important to be in phase one, right? So it's not just this building that we tuck everything down low. The city said all the city, larger city infrastructure and touching of that site needs to be completed in phase one. Makes perfect sense. It's the bones of the site, but it's also very rare and something you wouldn't see in a normal vision. Next slide. So folks, this is that. It goes through great detail of those lots, right? It gets into very specific site plan detail. This is well past me. This is our planners and architects that really start looking at the specific lots and the building. As you see, 161 is the community building. You kind of look at that, right? But this is us tracking now the up to 400 units on the site. So 164, right? As we look at that, those townhomes, that's 9 units, right? That are in there, and the flats. So that's where we get the 18 combined. So again, really lining Canterbury, both sides of that street there are going to be complete, if you will. They're stitched back in there. And so you'll see all of the activity. And then of course, the senior and multifamily building to get those the real numbers, the real density, if you will, on that southern end that transitions to the industrial behind us. Next slide. This is everything we focused on for so long, right? The road improvements, more the vehicular and pedestrian. You see Canterbury, the 2 travel lanes, it goes through that, sidewalks right on both sides. Of course, one side on Canterbury, want to be clear, that's the peak to peak, right? But we show the sidewalks on both ways. We get the 2 roundabouts. Then on Emma Street, so exciting, Cappy, we get the full 2 travel lanes added in. We get the 5-foot bike lane, right, on both sides. So we're getting that on both sides, the 8-foot tree lawn and the 8-foot multi-use trail on our side, the south side, right? So it just shows, and then we actually widen 120th for the realignment to accommodate that future ultimate roadway. So there's some straightening that we've long talked about there. And then of course, the signalized intersection will come in as well as part of that. So all of that infrastructure, everything we've been talking about for years, is actually in phase one. Keep going. Yeah, go ahead,
Yeah,
please, Cappy. Yeah,
just one question about that on Emma Street.
Yes.
So I will be very happy that there will be a sidewalk there. Has anything changed with the city about the sidewalk going west?
I have not heard anything more, Cappy, particularly. Jasper, anything from you? Sorry.
No, I haven't heard anything in terms of anything past our site here. I can look into it and see if there's any like future plans for that, but nothing at this time.
Yeah, I think, Cappy, one thing, boy, everybody's done a great job. You, Karen, everybody got it on the radar, right? As they talked about last in the Planning Commission. I do know, and I'm just going to tell you this, that site to the north is under contract. It, obviously nothing to do with us, but I heard the Wanaka site was. So, Cappy, that would also be, you know, to get that on the north side, right, someday. But that idea that there's some other things that are looking at contributing to that, right? And how do we work with peak to peak? So, Cappy, no concrete plans, but boy, has Lafayette been told that has to happen.
Yeah, and I think they know that, and we've heard them say that. And you know, I was walking towards our property the other day, and you know, that's a really deep ditch, and that's going to be a really big deal to do something about the drainage in there. And I know the city doesn't feel like, you know, that they have the money to do that, but it has to happen. So,
well, I couldn't agree. And hopefully we get some bonding. I mean, I think a lot of that, what's important about this, right, Cappy, to even add to that is, hey, they said, we're going to do 120th now, right? And you know, a lot of that is that drainage, the trail. So I think this becomes the anchor that forces that. So all the things you get, but boy, we hope that this is a pretty good precedent for this getting done in the near term.
Well, and I think what you just said about the section that's along our property on Emma, having the 2 lanes and having the sidewalk, you know, how could the city possibly let that just stop at the roundabout and then we go back to the big ditch?
Right.
You know?
Yeah, exactly.
I think it puts a lot of pressure even with a buyer on the other side. And, you know, this is this needs to continue on west.
I think, that buyer on the other side, and I have to, it's confidential, but I just was contacted them because of our site, right, Cappy?
Yeah.
And remember when the city bought on that north side of Emma, I'll make it, I don't remember the depth of that right away there, but
Yes.
they planned that sidewalk, right?
Right.
And they planned someday, Cappy, that Canterbury, the roundabout, may very well have a northern leg, right? It would continue north there, right? What is great is like the developer that looking at that site, the community builder there, they're like, it's incredible. The plan on the southern end of their site is like in place, right?
Yeah.
So that's so exciting to know that you're right. And I will tell you, that's the deepest part of that ditch, right? Where that collects. So they know they have to move that and kind of channel that, if you will. So they're working and already kind of studying on that. Of course, they have years, but just understanding that that's going to happen is terrific.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping
Let's go
that
get
I
it.
live long enough to take a walk and not get bumped into the ditch. So,
Let's look at that next slide there.
Hey.
And I've got my,
Marcus.
of course. Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
Marcus, I just want to go back to 2 slides previous to get the total number of living spaces that are available. I got 63 for senior housing, 160. That's lot 165.
Yep.
That for 166 and 67, are those 60 living units each?
Those are that on the right-hand side there, Bob, that those are the total number of units. So it's
60
odd.
and
So it's
51.
111 for those two combined, right? So for those, the senior building, and then the 18 townhomes and flats. It's just a little different style. So I think we have a total on that, but yeah, in that first phase, so 18, 63, and 111.
Yeah, Bob, it's a total of 192 for all this phase 1. project.
192. Got it. Okay. Now here's where I'm headed. On behalf of the Senior Advisory Board, want to talk about visitability. And way back when, it seems like in the dark ages, but we're out of the dark ages now. We're in the light. The city's visitability ordinance, where X% of all new homes should be constructed using the visitability requirements, which is just briefly 0-step entryway, master bathroom and main floor bedroom, and all ADA door openings. So for sure, just looking at the numbers, so out of that 192, we know 63 are definitely, because the whole senior building is visitable. But that means for the total project, just with the senior, 33% of the homes are visitable. And what the Senior Advisory Board is asking the architects at this stage to make as many of those units as possible follow those visitability ordinance specifications. So that would be in the townhomes, 164, and in the 2 multifamilies, 166 and 167. Are they at the point, the architects at the point where they can tell us which units are visitable?
So Bob, I'm gonna owe you that full answer, okay? And Jasper, can you tell me, do you have a slide that addresses that later on?
I have some architectural concepts that I don't think it necessarily addresses those units specific, but we'll definitely follow up with you on that.
Yeah, Bob, we'll come back with this specific. Let me show you a few of those renderings and we can talk about it. So I won't lose track of that. And Jim is here as well. We will follow up on that. But let me show you some renderings here because it'll show how we're doing it and their elevator served, right? So the multifamily building going through that. So let's go, Jasper, to a couple. We did that. So parks and landscape. So Bob, great question. You all have been very fair about that. And we need to give you the very specificity of how many they would have design on that, right, on that site plan. So folks, this is just that public land dedication. I just want to go through again the acreage, right? And we don't have to go through the smaller numbers, but again, 4.17 acres, right? 18% of this will be overall open space, right? Public land dedication. So that means we dedicate it to the city. So in this phase, they get 18% or 4.17 acres. Next slide, Jasper. This is what is cool, and I wanted to be sure and kind of blow this up for everybody. We're starting to look at, yeah, but what's that mean on parks? So this is and landscaping in phase one. It's so awesome. I mean, honestly, a regular market rate would do this very last. The community would all be built, but we're starting that community center, the community gardens, the seating areas that you see, the multi-use, and that RTD bus shelter and activation, all of that right there. The playground comes in phase one, multi-use courts, and the lawn. So that park is now to such an incredible level, and what an amenity. Kepi, you're 3 blocks away, 2 blocks away, Bob, like just thinking about that coming through there and the connections, right? You'll have that a couple of blocks missing there along Emma, but then the true infrastructure for sidewalks, trails, and connections here, and then the parks being actually built out in phase one. Next
We
slide.
don't happen to know anything about EV chargers yet, do we?
We know some about it. I think we have a
Yeah.
sustainability slide that kind
Yeah.
of goes through the numbers on that. So this is that senior community gardens. Thank you, Yael. The seating area. So again, this reflects and is adjacent to the senior building. So really looking at that amenity itself, that gardens that's there, the orchard, and a private dog park that is also contained. You can see it says dog run really light there, and you see the senior community garden that's immediately adjacent to that building.
Yeah, just going back to Yael's question, we have EV spaces 4 here and 7 EV capable spaces included in this area right here.
Great, thanks.
Okay.
So that shows this image of this amazing with the kind of orchard and the senior community gardens. Almost to the right, you see those kind of meandering trails through there, all of that. So it's really just incredible to see that landscaping and that final design. The left-hand side, so the north side, if you will, of Canterbury, shows where the playground is and how it transitions to the RTD center, the community center building. All of that activation there, again, built into the infrastructure in that phase one. That's a cool image. This shows it as if I was a drone right above the senior building. So that's the RTD station and community building. There's the RTD station, the community building, that remarkable space that it has there. And then you see the playground and the community gardens. And then that's the view that, you're obviously a little higher, but from the senior building, that's the perspective, if you will, as you look north towards Emma Street. So great. Next view. These are, Yael, thank you for asking that. This shows that sustainability features. Just so you know, for Planning Commission, we're going to break this into a couple of slides because those first 5 or 6 really are things that live on the site, right? They're not building specific. So we are doing, I've never seen a project go this far, I'll be completely honest, but we're at 0 energy ready homes. We're meeting the enterprise green communities. We are doing electric only buildings, which is astonishing. That is how we're doing it. See, these are not natural gas fed. So we are doing also the geothermal on this, the heating and cooling, and then have that EV ready to charging station. So those are built into our layout, and we actually have to show those on site where we're doing that. And then of course, the xeriscape, the landscaping, the extended detention basin, meaning we're allowing to utilize some of that water that collects there to provide kind of a passive water system for our xeriscape as well. This is just something we wanted to show you. I won't do it justice because I'm unfortunately not an architect, but these are the renderings, if you will. You can see on the key on the right, that senior building. And so the north elevation view is if I'm on the north looking at that building or to the north, right, and kind of looking at how that addresses it. The color palette, that's not necessarily finalized at all the way we're going through it, but it will have 2 or 3 or 4 colors. And I want to just point that out. What we are mimicking and what we are building into that is actually pulling from the natural fauna and flora, the type of plants that we're going to have in the site. So we're pulling from those colors. That's the color palette. So we're going back again, truly making that sustainability and the that natural planting to this area. We're going to pull those colors out of that. So we wanted to kind of honor, if you will, the old town architecture. We're not doing that super modern stuff that we're seeing everywhere, but again, really transition colors that really reflect that palette that we're going to plant on the ground as well.
Mhm. And kind of going back to Bob's question about visibility, some
Please.
of these patio, the first story homes, I think are accessible via their patios. So as you can look at the very first floor, you'll see that. And additionally, I wanted to point out the community gathering space in this building at the very top, I think northwest. Yeah, it's in this little corner over here. It kind of gives that view of the park and peak to peak over here. So
Jasper, you just said that perfectly. That building spins around. So if you look at the south elevation, Jasper, just this larger, it'll be that front left-hand side there. And that literally is looking over those senior gardens and that planting. So just a really incredible view across there and up, the community as it evolves into Canterbury.
mhm.
Next picture. This shows those multifamily buildings. So again, I'll talk about it this way, like holding the street. We think it's really important to anchor, hold the street, to have a street presence there. So north is looking at it from a north perspective. The south elevation, you see how it steps back a little bit, really allows there to be activity at the street level, where it really embraces that, has the landscaping. And then you'll see again a similar color palette that we're developing that really reflects that kind of natural flora and fauna on the site. 3-story elevator access here. These are purple prairie. You can see some of the names that's coming obviously from plants, from native plants, from that typology. So this is the purple prairie palace, as we're calling it. But kind of looking at that again, that activation. So that north elevation view there, pulling the view corridor back into the site. You can see it on the south is on that front. And it just takes an incredible view across that area to really look over. That would be over the detention basin, the landscaping, all of that together. So again, we've been very thoughtful and intentional about where those view corridors are for the residents as well, really lined up, if you will, along the open space, right? They get incredible views. The community collective view there is in those spaces as well. Great. This is that 9-plex. Just honestly, these are such great little 2-story buildings that fit so well on the site. Again, you see almost the stepping down, the stacking down. I chuckled the other day thinking about Cappy and Bob when we started with Legos, right? And that massing, right? But to see this come to life and live, those 2 9-plex buildings are just going to be great. The flats, this is the west building, the multifamily piece. And you can see it again, very similar palettes, but changing the highlight color, if you will, or the articulation color.
Mhm.
Maybe we have one more view. Then this community center, Jasper, I can't give it justice, but it is terrific to see that come live there again. The same color palette pulling from that landscaping. I heard a lot of talk about the natural grasses and kind of the pink hues that come out of that, and the sage kind of colors that are there. So that's what they're pulling but that's how it embraces it. So that north elevation view, again, just thinking that you're in that space, that's the community entrance north of the building where you're there. And then off to the other side here, it has kind of that open covered gazebo that transitions to the park, the playground, and the community garden. So really has that kind of transparent fade as it moves into that community open space.
Yep, and some cool features I wanted to point out here as well is these doors in the back are garage doors, so they kind of open up. So if there's ever an event or something like that around here, you can open it up to kind of allow access in and out of those to the gardens and things like that. So really cool features.
Great. This is, folks, the exterior materials, right? So yeah, I bet a number of you really have experience with this. This is how we show kind of the architectural boards, right? So you can see the lath, what we're showing there on the vertical board, and the board and batten, and kind of showing this. So this is a more of a palette for people to see and kind of tell those colors. Again, very kind of natural prairie fauna that kind of comes into this. You can see that really soft palette that's there. But we didn't want to have those crazy bold, crazy modern colors. We just didn't think that fit the site or your neighborhood. So guys, you know, the future milestones here, the timeline, boy, we've all been through it together, but what we're showing now, kind of going through, if you start at March 22nd there, again, we got the PUD approval. It's moved, as you all know. I mean, there's very strong support for this now and going through that process. But what has had to happen is all about phase one and how do we close on this so we can actually commence construction. So that's why we have been site plan, right? So we're talking about the site plan and the overall plat for this to move forward. So that was March 22nd, and then city council, we would go on April 18th. That we come to that agreement with city council because they were like, here's the way we can get it done. Here's the schedule with city staff, excuse me. So that's why we were hastened, if you will, to schedule these two meetings. We were not going to go to the planning commission without providing these images to all of you. We have one other meeting, then we're going to share it to the whole group. We're not going to go, you know, I know we won't get everybody to attend to these two separate meetings, but we want you to have the package. So if you have questions before then, send it to Jasper and I, to Jim, to Molly, our whole team, and we will get you questions before we go have that discussion with the planning commission. So that gives the big picture, right? Here is from land use all, and then, you know, we almost started with the lots, right? The planning, the middles, that comprehensive plan, what we've already done, consistent with our zoning, consistent with the guiding documents that you all helped us put in place. And then really on the right-hand side of this is the imagery that we are going to actually construct on the ground in phase one. Pretty darn good, Jasper. That's a lot of stuff. You can go back to that last image, but
Yeah.
everybody, I am so sorry. I'm just kind of going through it quickly. So everybody's got to, I know we're all kind of on lunch and different things. So fire away with any questions or comments that you would like to share. Jasper, you just showed an aerial. Is that a backup slide? That's a not fully vet, or is that an updated?
This is I think previous. Oh no.
Yeah. It's kind of more of a masking, folks, but it's still, if it gives you the feel, if you will, of the site. But now you can see we're adding kind of the architecture to all those buildings. So go back to kind of the site plan, that slide there. There you go.
Here, let me get you back to.
Anybody, any good specific questions? Bob, I did not give you an answer at all. I apologize for that, my friend. I am going to owe you on the 192 units. I want to go by parcel. Okay, Bob, the four buildings, the four parcels, excuse me. I will get you an answer on the specificity of the visitability units in those four different buildings. The two, right, separate, the townhome and the flats, and then the other ones.
Right. I appreciate that, Marcus. And just a comment on one of the slides, it looked like by the senior slides there, a street was named, and it was Buho Place. Is that what I saw? Whoop, we go back the one before that, one before this one, Jasper. Yeah, senior building, Buho Place. Is that the name? Is that the name?
You know, that might be Jasper. I think we're working through that right now, Bob. Yeah. I think that's kind of a holding place right now.
Well,
but again,
let me tell you. Let me tell you. Buho means owl in Spanish. Okay.
Yes.
Symbolically, what does the owl represent to people in general?
Wisdom, wise.
Ding, ding, ding. Ding, ding, ding. I think that I would vote for Buho Place as the name of the access to the senior building.
I think that is fabulous. That is a strong support back. So yeah, we are going through kind of a naming Congress, if you will, thinking about it. But Bob, that's a great idea. And that was the reference back to that for sure.
Good. Well, kudos to the bilingual person, or maybe it was a Latino person that came up with that, but I'm with them 1,000%.
I love it. You bet. Cappy, do you have a question there? Yeah, I just saw you raise your hand, but go right ahead, Cappy.
Yes. Well, first of all, Bob, I love the Buho Place. That's fabulous. My question actually was on the dates, and I was waiting for you to say if those were actually confirmed dates. And so I missed writing them down. Are they confirmed dates at this point?
They
Yeah.
are confirmed, and honestly, Kepi, they were confirmed 10 days ago, right? So that is what we have been working through. We had joined that schedule. The May 1st, because you get that very well, all of you do. Those two closings on our financing package, the federal and the LIHTC, the tax credit money, we had to close by May 1st. So that is what the engineering overload, there are like teams working on this. So yes, we will hold March 22nd and April 18th. We will close 2 days later on
Mhm.
1A, the senior building, and then 1B, the multifamily building.
And so is that a planning commission meeting that we need to get to provide support?
We would love it. And yes, Cappy, we will send this collectively to, of course, to all of ELAC. We would love to have your attendance, speaking, anything that's available there. We think that's a really important part. So, and why we wanted to come back and say, here's where we're at, kind of with final documents.
And then the closing dates, those are not a public event. It's just the
That's
city
right.
council and the planning commission.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right.
Yael, go right ahead. And then, hi, Bonnie, that'll be great. But Yael, go for it.
Great. I have a follow-up question, which is based on these dates, is there an estimated breaking ground date?
Yeah, there sure is. And Jasper, I saw Jim's camera come on. Maybe you know Jim, but Jasper, you may be pulling up a further schedule, but let us share that information. Yael, I don't have it right in front of me.
Okay.
And hey, everybody, Jim Williams, Communications for Boulder County Housing and Human Services and BCHA. My understanding is that construction groundbreaking would begin in May. I think that was the initial sort of thinking. So all dependent on financial closing, obviously, but I think that is still the current thinking. You know, we want to get going as quickly as we can, and we want to take advantage of the construction season as well. So I don't have an exact date in May, but I do believe it was maybe the second or third week that was a target.
I'll get back to everybody too, just generally, if we are doing some kind of a more formal ground, but you know what I mean, like that kind of event, obviously that it may start before then, but we'll circle back with everybody. But yes, we are imminently ready to start construction.
And Marcus, can I just add one more thing?
Sure.
Kind of based on what Cappy was asking about in terms of attendance at these public meetings, I just want to encourage anyone to bring folks with you. If you know others who are wanting to voice their support for Willoughby Corner, this is a great time to do it. So those meetings I think will be super important for anyone and everyone who wants to talk about how important Willoughby will be for the community to come on out. So yeah, thank you.
Bonnie, go right ahead.
Yeah, hi, sorry I signed in a little bit late. I was interested in how these roundabouts are going to work to try to encourage traffic to go east on Emma and not down our little residential street. I see that there's now 2 roundabouts. But yeah, I mean, I must have, because I signed in late, I must have missed this slide. You're gonna have a traffic light right at Emma and 120th there, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and so this, the roundabouts are supposed to encourage traffic east. Is that the way that works?
Well, I think, and you mean so it just doesn't push it down Emma, right, Bonnie?
Yeah, because that's a wonderful little connector down there.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. No,
and then across the bridge across to 87. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. No, what we have designed here, and you know it well, I mean, all of this has really been about setting the pace and trying to push traffic. If traffic goes westbound down Emma, we want to set the pace for it and really put it in the proper location. And then secondly, we do want to encourage it to go east and go on 120th. And that's why there's significant infrastructure. So that first roundabout, it's a sense of arrival when you come into Old Town. That has been such a traffic flow issue, as we all know, right at peak to peak. So you come into that really slows that motion coming into Old Town. And we're also, of course, making that very residential. So the trails, the landscaping. That second roundabout, as you recall, Bonnie, that one there, we are pushing now a very high percentage of our peak to peak traffic right there will do that hard right that Jasper just did and come immediately out. 40% of that traffic will go south then on 120th. So they never have to go on to Emma again, right? And I mean that, like, that doesn't kind of mud up that road there. So that's the plan and kind of how we've designed it. But yes, they have studied that very intently, but that first roundabout is so important. I just want to say it again about setting the pace, right, Bonnie? We're not going to prohibit folks, of course, from making that motion, but there needs to be a sense of arrival. And that's why we actually thought the improvements on the south side of Emma, the trail, the 8-foot multi-lane, all the things you're seeing there and that accommodate, we needed to also show that that fabric of the pedestrian connections is there as well to really slow that overall vehicular traffic as well.
Okay, and then is there going to be a light at this, the entrance RTD thing? Is there a second light right there on 120th?
There is.
Outside of the.
It does not show one. There is not. That is shown as that's a right in, right out. We can't, if I was on Canterbury, right, Bonnie, I couldn't turn left going north on 120th. So, and you can see there's almost a pork chop. It's prohibited, right? It's built in there. So that's, again, we wanted to really push that traffic flow south, right? So there will not be a second light because it doesn't meet the warrants. I don't know that it ever will, Bonnie, to be honest, because that is our traffic and peak to peak traffic. And then I think some people are going to be smart coming down Emma and come through here and maybe avoid that. But that intersection is going to be so much improved at 120th. That flow should help there as well, whether it's north or southbound.
And then what about this? It looks like there's a little road right there in the center where it says East Emma. Is that also going to be?
Yeah.
Come out that way too?
They could come out there. And again, that's probably if I live in those areas that are almost shaded out, Bonnie, I'm going to use that access. Maybe I'm going, westbound into the town or through through the town, going to the coffee shop or something. That'll do that. But again, our traffic, that's almost where you're already headed. I think we do have that centralized gathering, which is Willoughby Boulevard, but it has that center park, which you'll see is kind of shaded out there again, but we really slow the pace of that, right? Because of that kind of node of open space there.
Right, and you can make a right or left where the words East Emma are there.
That's right. It would not punch through to the north, I don't think. I don't know if that would ever happen someday, Bonnie. We don't show it now, but it does. You could make a right or a left onto Emma Street. Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I worry about all that traffic and everything coming down because Emma's already busy as it is. But there's only so much that can be done with so many people.
I completely get it. And that's been the whole ethos of our planning. I think the city's pretty ecstatic with the way our results have turned out and that we're actually building this infrastructure to make 120th to try to not push that in. So I'm with you, Bonnie. I completely get it. I think our traffic counts, I think we really are reversing flow and improving intersections. So hopefully we see that. I think we also can know that if it doesn't flow the way we think, we'll make changes later. But where Cappy started and where you're entering with questions, we have to finish that sidewalk network along Emma, right? Where you both are.
Cappy's right about that.
Yeah, it just has to slow it, right? We need, and I always, this word gets me in trouble, but we need friction at the roadway. You need to see sidewalks so you slow the heck down, right? And so we need that friction to continue that whole fabric across Emma Street.
So you may not know the answer to this, but who's in charge of widening 120th? Because we've got this whole mess on South Boulder Road right now where people are like litigating against other people and they didn't know, they don't know how to complete the construction on South Boulder Road. And there's this whole uproar. And now we're going to go do 120th. It was all the locates and everything was basically what the problem was on South Boulder Road. So who is in charge of?
Yeah. It's a great question. Yeah. And Bonnie, they actually made us, as you can see here, I'm going to say this, over engineer. We don't ever usually do across the street, right? On any development that I'm in, but we are doing it on 120th and on Emma Street. We're doing the north side design and the east side of 120th as well. And they're making us make those improvements on 120th for future. So our segment, if you will, all of that there, Bonnie, they learn from that mistake mistake. You're absolutely right. And we are designing, if you will, both sides. So there, of course, will be an interim condition, right? Until that's built out on the other side. We can't go build it out on somebody else's parcel, but we are designing it and building all of our side. So we are, and the city are fully in charge of all those documents and the design. So locates are
yeah, I
done,
just
all
need
of that. Yeah,
it to be start, stop, as you guys are
exactly.
starting to build the housing,
Yeah.
Okay. All
They
right.
learn from it. I think you're absolutely right. Hey, Jasper, I have somebody, I'm so sorry, folks. This is live meetings. Somebody kind of beating here on the outside of my office door. So I'm going to see who's here or our building. So Jasper, take over for a second, folks.
Yep. Yeah, sorry. So I only gave you one portion of where the EV chargers are. There's actually EV chargers all around in phase one. So say, for example, the community park, there was 7 capable EV charging stations there. In the townhomes over here, we're looking at 6 EV capable chargers here. And then the multifamily, we're looking at 12. And then with the seniors, we're looking at 20 EV charging stations there capable.
Oh,
So
awesome.
yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, no worries. Any further questions? Okay. No worries. Well, you guys have been so great. I just want to remind everyone that we have planning commission on the 22nd here, and if if you are available that night, we would really love your support and letters if possible. So I think this will be in person. I think there's also an option to join online, and I'll be sure to follow up with everyone on how to do that. So if you're interested, you'll have instructions on how to do that. And then I will send out this video to everybody here and also a Q&A sheet. So if there's any more questions that you had additional to this meeting, you can go ahead and just add it there. But other than that, I just want to say thank you so much for jumping on this call. I know it's been kind of quick notice, so I apologize for that. And I thank you for carving out the time to join us on that. So
Right. Yeah. And one quick question, Jasper.
yeah, go for it.
The acronym SPAR, what does it stand for?
Yeah, I believe it's
Site plan
architectural review.
Site plan architecture. That's the part I couldn't think of. Okay, thank you. Excellent job. I appreciate the update.
Not a worry. We're happy to do it. So, oh, and if there's anyone else that needs to follow up with us, I'm happy to carve out some time too. So just let me know what works for everybody. All righty. With that said, thank you so much. Bob, you want to give us one more joke and then we're off?
Okay. Oh God, I want a good one, a parting one. Oh, my mind goes blank.
I put you on the spot.
Well, no, I'm not going to do that one. That's
Okay. All right, we'll just do in the next one then.
yeah. Get me on the next one. I'll be prepared. I know that April Fools is coming up, so we might have some. But no, we're April 18th now. But thanks for putting up with it. And happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone.
Yes, happy St. Patrick's, everybody.
Thank you so much. It's really, really exciting, as it is every time we get to see the progress. It's incredible. So proud to be a part of it.
We're excited too.
Yeah, we are super excited that everybody is part of it. So thank you. All righty, take care, everybody.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.